was the scene after a fatal shooting at the Holocaust Museum in Washington on Wednesday. Since that attack, some commentators on the left have blamed conservatives, and especially those in the conservative media, for the tragedy. Here's what Michael Rose said on the Huffington Post, referring to a controversial discussion on the Donnie Deutsch show in which Coulter and the host talked about Jews. This week, nearly 2 years later, James von Braun, driven by his own twisted version of Coulter's publicly proclaimed perspectives regarding the imperfection of Jews, entered the Holocaust Museum in Washington and put them into action with tragic and deadly consequences. Kirsten, those comments from Coulter were 2 years ago. Can you go back that far?
This will be the first time I ever defend Ann, ever. She's not responsible for anti-Semitism in this country, I'm pretty sure. And this guy has been an anti-Semite for a long time. And I think that there's this sloppiness that assumes because conservatives tend to be anti-government, very critical of big government, that when somebody does something like this, where they express really what this guy was, sort of an anti-government anybody person, then it must be a conservative, which was not the case.
Yeah, why do the so-called right-wingers or conservative media always get the blame for this kind of thing?
Well, you know, when that report came out from the Department of Homeland Security, it's saying we were in danger of right-wing attacks like this. I've read that people who are experts on this say the immigration debate, the election of our first African-American president, and the economy have helped create a climate. But I do think words have consequences. There are a lot of people on the web that are crazy and saying crazy things. There are a lot of people. I mean, you do have to be careful that you're not whipping up people and telling them, Obama's going to take away your guns, Obama's a fascist. You do have to be careful with what you say, I think.
And yet,
well, this story broke. This guy was an anti-Semite. The same day that we heard about Reverend Jeremiah Wright's latest outburst saying, them Jews ain't going to let me get to talk to President Obama. Now, that sounds at least partly anti-Semitic to me. You didn't see anyone running around trying to tie this gunman to this liberal democratic preacher who's tied to the president, but you saw the press trying to say that this gunman represented conservatism, or at least certain aspects of the press, just like when Dr. Tiller, the abortionist, was killed. There were all these stories about, are all pro-lifers terrorists? But when Private Long, the army recruiter, was killed by an Islamic convert who espoused jihadism, you didn't see those kinds of stories. Again, there's a double standard.
Susan Page of USA Today did a very brave thing. She went on MSNBC, which is owned by General Electric, a huge recipient of federal bailout money, and she actually said that it was unfair to do what Joan Walsh and Marcos Militzis are doing, which is trying to blame the shooting on Rush Limbaugh. So Susan Page won't be back again.
There is no doubt.